Well, good afternoon. My name's Denny Sawrtz, and we're here at the Divers Reunion in Morgan City, Louisiana. And I spent over 50 years of my life as a commercial diver, supervisor, superintendent, and great bunch of guys working with. But I grew up in the oil field and the oil patch, and someone said you need to pass on a few things to people that want to know something about the commercial diving business. So everybody thinks that being in the commercial diving business, you make lots of money and it's all glamorous. Well, it's not. It's nothing but hard work like any other job. And a couple things that I think you should understand is that if you get in the business, there's a lot of sacrifices you have to make with your family. You're gone for extended periods of time. Sometimes you go out on jobs and they expect you to stay 3 weeks, 6 weeks. In the early 70s, Brown and Root, if you went to work for Taylor Diving, they'd go offshore and say, you're going to be on the barge for 8 months. So you'd stay on the barge for 8 months at a time, make the money, work every day, and then come in, and 4 months you'd be in. You only get paid when you work offshore. But over the years, there's a lot of tricks to the trade like there is in anything. So one thing I'd just like to pass on, everybody says, well, if you had one good piece of advice you could give someone, what would it be? And I had a diver that everyone has like a sea daddy, someone they start out with and you respect. And a gentleman who was named Paul Perry, and he ended up being president of Vinra Subsea. But he told me, he said, if you want to make a dive, make sure you always tie 25 foot of 1/4-inch rope onto your diving umbilical. And I said, well, won't that get hung up or fouled if it gets hung up in the bottom and all that? He said, yeah, occasionally it will and all that. But he said, when you put a helmet on your head, you don't have anything that you can kind of grab with your teeth anymore. If you wanted to make a knot and pull on something. He said, how many hands you got? And I said, well, I got 2. He said, yeah, but if you got a piece of rope and you got a riser, which is a piece of pipe that comes from the surface and goes to the seabed, and you got to put riser clamps on around the jacket leg, you can take that rope, and when they lower the riser clamp down to you, they're lowering it down with a crane. Well, you can swim on over to that riser clamp, you can tie a rope onto it, you can go back over to the platform, and as you lower the crane down, you got that rope and you can just bring that clamp right to you. It's going to the left or to the right, you can feel it. You can do it in zero visibility. If not, you might get hit on the head because they're lowering it down from the surface. You need to know where you got a load is, especially when you got it above you. If you're setting a jet machine, which is a machine that they use to bury pipelines, this may weigh 50 to 100 tons. And they typically lower it and you get below it and tie that string onto it. You can lower yourself to the bottom. You can put your 2 feet on the pipeline in zero visibility because you can feel it with your feet. You got the rope tied to the jet machine and you can tell them to lower it, move the barge to the left or to the right by just using that rope. A piece of 1/4-inch rope is a good rigging tool to have no matter what you do. Whether you're tying something in the back of your truck, always have a piece of 1/4-inch rope and have a trucker's hitch. You know how to tie it, know how to tie a clove hitch. But just a common sense, simple tool to use whenever you're diving is I'd highly recommend, and I did it for 50 years. I tied a piece of 1/4-inch rope to my diving umbilical, and when I needed that third hand, I always had a third hand with that rope.
In the diving business.
I came down to Morgan City in 1969, and I worked in Morgan City in the Gulf of Mexico. Worked in Mexico, Trinidad, Ecuador, Trinidad. I went overseas for oceanic contractors. Worked out of Warri, Nigeria. I worked out of South Africa, Cabinda, South Africa for Chevron Oil, 220 foot of water. Came back to the Gulf of Mexico, worked as a diver, underwater construction, burning, underwater welding, heavy construction. Started my own company building closed circuit rebreathers, like what the astronauts wore on their moon. But this backpack had oxygen and helium in it, and you could put it on and set it for any partial pressure you wanted, where at the surface it would give you 100% oxygen. Then as you dove down, you could go to 300 feet underwater, and the deeper you went, it would give you less oxygen and more helium. So on the surface, you were breathing 100%. At 300 feet, you were breathing 90% helium, 10% oxygen. And then as you started coming up, it would just start increasing the oxygen percentage up. The higher oxygen would push the bubbles out of solution in your tissues and prevent you getting the bends. I used that equipment, sold it to a number of companies, ended up going to the North Sea, teaching divers in the North Sea how to use the closed circuit breathing equipment out of submarines initially, four-man submarines doing pipeline inspection work. And then I ended up going to work for McDermott in the North Sea doing heavy construction work in the Ekfis field, putting 24, 30, 36-inch risers in. After 3 years in the Ekfis working for Ocean Systems, McDermott offered me a job to run their diving operations out of Brussels, Belgium. McDermott had 8 construction vessels, and we had saturation diving systems on them, and we did surface air diving and saturation diving for all the major oil companies out of Norway, Scotland, England, Holland. We did work out of France, Belgium, Dutch. The majority of it was in the North Sea. Then after that, I came back to the Gulf of Mexico in '85. I've worked for over 22 different diving companies over the years as a diver, a supervisor, a superintendent. I was a president of American International Divers. I worked as a sales manager for a couple companies. I then worked for a company called OPI, Offshore Pipelines Incorporated. They bought all Brown and Root barges, and I started supplying divers to them. Then they asked me to run their pipeline division. I ended up being the operations manager for OPI, and we ran 6 pipeline barges, laying pipelines and installing platforms in the Gulf of Mexico. Then it expanded overseas to West Africa, India, South America, Trinidad, Mexico.
So where do you call home now?
I'm sorry?
Where do you call home?
Home now is Broussard, Louisiana. I lived in Aberdeen, Scotland, had a daughter born in Scotland, lived in Marbella, Spain, lived in Antwerp, Belgium, lived in Brussels, Belgium. I've traveled around the world 6 or 8 times, bid and worked jobs in China, Vietnam, Kuala Lumpur, Dubai, Sharjah. I was sales manager for American International, and then I was president of the company, and sold their diving services and their pipeline connectors. At OPI, I ran all their...
You're just blowing me away right now. You're just like, I got one thing to say, and you got a lot to talk about.
Oh, I've been very fortunate in
Yeah.
But the diving business opened opportunities for me in other areas in the construction. I was working on the barges, then I ended up managing the barges, and then I ended up being a sales manager for pipeline companies. And then when Katrina came through, I went to work for Superior Offshore, and I was a worldwide operations manager. I ran 3 dynamically positioned diving saturation boats with saturation crews and a number of air surface projects. In Trinidad, I ran a $110 million construction project for BP with all IMCA supplied commercial divers, and They'd run 4 different diving companies off. They were 3 years behind schedule. And in 9 months, we completed all the work all the other companies were unable to complete. And they were able to get their pipelines in commission on time. Had 650 people working on that project. I had a barge and 3 DP vessels, mostly doing saturation diving work with 36-inch pipelines and pipeline construction work. Then I came back from there, and they had my own consultancy company, Deepwater Services, consulted to a number of pipeline companies on how to do work and do project management. Then I was approached by Ranger Offshore that was just starting a new diving company, and I went to work as their sales manager and helped with their operations until 2016. And then I said, that's enough, I'm going to retire. In 2015, I was honored and I was installed in the Commercial Divers Hall of Fame for the safety procedures and initiatives. I wrote McDermott's diving manual, their operations manual, their procedures manual, their welding manuals.
I guess your resume is freaking 20 pages long or something. Huh?
Oh yeah.
All right,
But,
man. But you got anything else to say?
Yeah.
Anything else?
But remember, take that piece of 1/4-inch rope with you. It'll help you. It's just a matter of rigging. When somebody tells you all you got to do, you're in trouble because they think it's easy. When somebody tells you all you got to do, you better grab a hold of that piece of rope and say, let me figure out how to rig this up. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.